We're very humble and honoured to be here. The biggest thing that we can do for you is to give you our time to explain a topic and to demonstrate how we can help and support the process of reducing unwanted trapped emotions. So our topic today is
prenatal
trapped emotions. That's our topic today. So prenatal trapped emotions. Yeah. So do you feel that you have suffered with a certain emotion? And when I say emotion, it can be anything like anxiety, overwhelmed, just feeling like you can't get rid of a jealousy streak that you have inside you? Or do you always have, you've had a certain title, I wouldn't call it a title, or a certain label of emotion, and you just can't seem to get rid of it? Do you have physical pain that you feel like you've suffered with this physical pain all your life and you just can't get rid of it? Now, this could be what we call a prenatal trapped emotion, which we're going to talk about. What does that mean? Or it could be inherited trapped emotion.
Exactly.
On episode 2, Madeleine and I spoke about what is inherited trapped emotion. So if you want to watch that, go back to episode 2. So as I said, we're very humble to serve you today. We're very humble. Those who don't know me, my name is Victoria. I'm an emotional code and body code practitioner. So I'm a certified emotional code and body code practitioner through Dr. Brad Nelson. And this is...
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else then. Sorry. Hello, I'm Madeleine. I've actually been connected with the energy worlds, well, since I can remember, probably from birth. And I decided as a mid-adult, shall we say, to leave the hectic world of commerce and start looking into helping others to realise what it's all about. So part of my time after I'd left work, as it were, was to look at the ancients, to reconnect with all those, to look into other modalities as well, what were more modern. When I say more modern, sort of 100 years plus. So I decided to then qualify, and become a practitioner, eventually teacher of various modalities, such as those I've probably spent longer on, was crystal therapy, obviously spiritual development. I was already an energy healer. Then I looked at meditation, mindfulness, and eventually became a 6th generation Usui Reiki Master and Teacher, and also equestrian and other animals. As I say, lots of other bits as well.
Yeah, this is why, as I say, every week we call Madeleine the Oracle, and you literally is the Oracle. She has that much wealth of knowledge. Bearing in mind, she's been teaching, learning and studying for over 40 years. So if you think 40 years of knowledge, that's what she's got. So not only has she been researching and put into practice what she's learned, but she's also been teaching people as well about. So what to expect from today? So as I mentioned, every Monday at 10:30 UK time, we're always going to be here. So last week we spoke about what is a heart wall, one of my favourite subjects, which was episode 4. So if you want to know if you have a heart wall, if you struggle to receive love or to give love, then have a look at that episode and how we can talk about how we can remove your heart wall. Next week, we're going to talk about shared emotions. Yeah. So what is a shared emotion? So if 2 of you experience something like an event or grief at the same time, both of you can come away with an emotion. And if you haven't processed that or get rid of it, then it becomes trapped. So by using distant healing or remote healing, by me using muscle testing, for those who've seen me many times, I use muscle testing. Madeleine's going to explain that to you. So we'd love to really hear from you if you have any issues, either physical or emotional, that you want us to get rid of. It's a free session that we do. We're always asking for volunteers. All your information is kept private and confidential. Absolutely. So all we do is use your name, what country you're from, and then we'll talk about your issue and what pain we've got rid of. And I'll also email you your notes. So if you want to volunteer for any show, it doesn't have to be the topic that you want to volunteer on. It can be any show. So if you want to volunteer, put me below, or you can email me at Gentle Harmonies. So I always get this wrong, don't I? You can email me at members@gentleharmonies.co.uk. So that's members@gentleharmonies.co.uk. So what is prenatal trapped emotions? So these are just negative emotions that you absorb as a fetus whilst in your mother's womb. That's basically what it is. You know, so during pregnancy, you can either have these emotions that are absorbed from your mum, either from the first, second, or third trimester. Majority of the time, as I mentioned, we've done over 200 cases for people with great outcomes as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
But what we find is if people that have prenatal trapped emotions, majority of them are from the third trimester. So if you've ever had children, think about your last 3 months of pregnancies. What's your emotions like? What's your hormones like? What's your tolerance like? And what's your patience like? So it's to be tested. Okay, so Madeleine's now going to do a quick talk on about the study that she's found regards to mothers' emotional health.
Okay, that was quick. I looked at many actually, trying to find something that I thought I could just pick out and explain to you. However, there are literally hundreds of thousands of reports of studies globally that I looked at, but they all come down to the same sort of thing. As Victoria said, if you look at mummies, it used to be that you probably saw your midwife every now and again. Then there were studies where, well, how can we make sure we have a healthy baby from this fetus? Right, don't smoke, don't drink, don't do anything you like doing. And then it turned to, well, what about nutrition? We need to look at the nutritional value of the fetus and what mum's eating. Then it just carried on, and they started looking at mum's emotional health, as they called it, looking at what mum was suffering, how she was doing, and realised a lot of psychological studies, many of them now, realised that the fetus itself was absorbing emotions. After all, as we know, everything is energy, and energy follows a thought. It's like there's thought and there's energy following it. So even if you have a thought, it emanates into energy. That energy can just dissipate, as Victoria says, if you deal with it, or if it was just a fleeting thing. But if it's something that really affected you for longer than, what's your
20
NLP?
minutes.
20 minutes? Then it sticks with you. And it's exactly the same with a fetus. The first trimester, as Vic said, the first 3 months, it's just developing. Those amazing, miraculous little cells are changing and developing and duplicating and becoming a little human being. But then from 18 weeks, we now know that that fetus understands sound waves. The sound waves are a frequency. You can have the low ones, you can have the positive high ones. So everything, they get to recognise mum's breathing, even dad's and the family, the voices and so forth. It all resonates, it's all a frequency. Remember how it was suddenly really popular to have womb music, not room, womb. I used to use whale music with you. That's what she likes to see. So it developed from there. Psychologists now are realizing that even people in late adulthood are developing emotions that there seems to be no reason for them to have had them. And they suddenly realize that they've had them from being a fetus, that they've absorbed them through mum. I mean, as Vic quite rightly said, if you've ever had kids, you know that your hormones are all over the place. Somebody could say something to you which normally you'd probably laugh off, you wouldn't even think about it. But you might suddenly think, well, I don't like that. Well, that's upset me. It could be that you're having an afternoon sleep, and suddenly there's somebody banging on the door and it shocks you and you think, oh, and that stays with you, that shock stays with you for a few moments. It can be anything from happiness to being sad about something. Maybe it's a book you read. It can be anything. You think of how many things can affect you or make you think about something throughout the day. It's endless. But every one of those frequencies is going to be hitting your fetus. And the fetus will absorb quite a lot of them as well. It's not your fault. It just happens. It's just life. But then, what's the point of this then if you're not if you're not a mum or you don't plan to have them or you're a male or whatever, the whole point is, where did we all start? I think we all started from a fetus. So it's not just what happens when you're a pregnant mum, it's what happens to you as a fetus and what can happen to you much later in life. They can lie dormant for years. Maybe you never have them, but sometimes something can trigger them off. And you think, what's this all about? This isn't the sort of person I am. Why am I doing this? And that's where it comes into digging to find out what those emotions are and to get rid of them for you. It's all, remember there's the phrase mind over matter, which used to be laughed about, but it's very much the case. Your mind now, as orthodox medicine never used to believe, but does now, and the Eastern medicines always believed, that the mind is the most important thing. As I say, thought, what follows on is your energy. So your thoughts, your energies, your frequencies can create all sorts of physical problems as well. So that's a little bit about it.
Okay, thank you, Madeleine. So we had a client who had a prenatal trapped emotion absorbed from her mother, and it worked out, it was from the third trimester, so obviously the last 3 months of the pregnancy, where she took a dislike to the midwife. And because she took a dislike to the midwife, and because her emotions were heightened, that trapped emotion then got absorbed into whoever the client was that we were speaking to about that time. You can't stop emotions. It's part of being us. We all have emotions. You know, you can't go through life not having emotions. It's an impossibility. So if you're a mother and, you know, you're going to have emotions, your fetus is going to absorb emotions. You can't stop it. It's going to happen. It's like A plus B equals C. You can have a situation where, you know, the doctor could come in and have a certain colour tie on. Mm-hmm. And as a mother, you didn't like that doctor. So then all of a sudden you'll have a negative reaction to that colour of the tie, which can get absorbed through the fetus. So because we can't do anything about it and because we can't stop it, well, what can we do? Awareness. That's the thing, is to be aware. So if you think to yourself, you know, I've had this physical pain since I can remember. I've had this mental issue since I can remember. You can probably bet that it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be even inherited trapped emotions, like what we talked about in episode 2, or it could be in a prenatal trapped emotion that you absorb from your mum.
They're very close, actually.
Yeah, they are. You came up with a good idea about the difference. What is the difference between prenatal and inherited?
Well, basically, inherited comes down, it's all about epigenetics, mm-hmm. where your parents, your grandparents, your great-great, we've had somebody back, it's about 10, 15 generations back, mm-hmm. where something happened, like heaven knows when. And it was a shock and it changed their DNA. Emotions can actually change your DNA. So when they had children, mm-hmm. that emotion was passed down, mm-hmm. because it was in the DNA. So that's inherited.
Yeah.
That can come down generations from whenever. But prenatal is actually whilst you are a fetus. Once you start developing in your mum's womb, that's prenatal. So that's sort of the difference between the two, but they're so very close together.
So how do we remove these emotions? What do we do? Well, if you just think about your body, this is the physical. You have two bodies. You've got two bodies. Your first body is your physical body. Your second body is your
spiritual
energy. It's your energy body, or known as your aura. I mean, we are going to have a topic all about auras. Madeleine had a picture taken of an aura. So there's a topic we're going to talk about all about what is aura. Majority of our clients, when they feel that they have a disconnection with themselves and with the world, or just feel a little bit isolated, that tends to mean they have a disconnection with their aura or their spirit body, because that's our physical body and that's your spirit body. What should happen is when you feel in line, i.e. you put these two together, that's when you have complete harmony with your physical and your mental self as well. But if you have a disconnection going on, whatever that disconnection is and whatever it's caused it, that's when you have trapped emotions, and that's how they can stay there and not get released.
You feel you don't belong and things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is, if you think about everything's a vibration. So you've got, as Madeleine mentioned, you've got low vibrational energies. Now, there's Dr. Emoto who's done an experiment, which I'll talk about when we talk about word. How powerful can the word be? Dr. Emoto did an experiment about each word has its own frequency or its own hertz. It's measured in hertz. So if you think about negative emotions, they have low frequency, low vibrations. And positive words, I can, I will, I'm able, are all high vibrations. So what we do is, by releasing these trapped emotions, by using magnets in my intention, we wipe out that trapped emotion to start you on the recovery of a better energy body, or a better healing. Because just because we release those trapped emotions, it doesn't mean you're going to start doing cartwheels outside. It's just the start of your energy healing process. Okay, so our first volunteer, or our volunteer for today, is a lady called Rachael. So Rachel's got some resistance about gaining weight, and she's feeling really fed up. Now, we always ask for a pain scale whenever we help people to remove these emotions. So Audrey, thank you very much for saying me. I'll get in contact with you and talk about how we can do your free session. So always give me a pain scale. So 0 is nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. So if there's nothing wrong with you, let's not discuss it. So then it goes up from 1 all the way up to 10, 10 being severe discomfort. So for Karen, this is a 10 out of 10. Oh, sorry, for Rachael. Don't know why I said Karen. So for Rachael, this is a 10 out of 10. So it's really, really quite severe and debilitating. And she's had this since about the age of 13. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the quiet. I'm going to spend about a good 5 minutes on Rachael to discover what actually is going on. And then I'm going to release. You're going to see me doing this with my hands. And also you're going to see me doing this with my magnets. So I'm going to be releasing her emotions. Whilst I'm doing that, and spend a good 5 minutes on that, Madeleine's going to talk to you about, what am I doing? What am I doing, and how does that help people with their trapped emotions? Okay.
Okay. Basically, what Vic's doing at the moment is just asking for help from the higher power, whoever that is, whoever you may turn to when you're stressed or whatever. But it's basically the higher energy levels. It's always good to have a bit of help. And what she's doing now, which looks a bit weird, is basically kinesiology, which is muscle testing. There's various different methods you can use. Vic prefers to do the ring method, which is because you have your finger and thumb like that, you hold it, and as you try to pull it apart, you have that resistance, or if it just pulls apart easily, that's a no. Basically what she's doing is going into Rachel's subconscious, not a conscious mind. Conscious mind, if you can imagine an iceberg, this bit is your conscious mind, which is your doing mind, it's you obeying mind. All the rest of it, all the bit you don't see under the sea, is your subconscious mind. I call it your database, because every single thing from, as we know, talks about every single thing from even before you were born, that lodges in there, everything you've seen, smelled, tasted. If you've watched something, if you've felt something, if you've sensed something, it doesn't have to be reality. It can be on television, it can be a book you've read, it can be observation, when you're out in the street, whatever. It all gets stored in there, everything. So it's your whole, 90% actually, of your intelligence. So Vic, by distance healing method, for example, Monday afternoons I work with a group of experienced distant healers, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, because everything is energy, and energy has no boundaries. We've helped a lot of people by just sending out our intentions. So you have your intentions, your energies, and that's how we help. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. I mean, Rachael could be, we know she's in this country, but she could be asleep now. She could be anywhere doing anything. It doesn't matter, because we're not talking to a conscious, active mind. We're talking to a subconscious. So Vic's just asking yes or no. Is it this? Is it that? She's using an app from Dr. Brad Nelson, who he's created over many years. It has over 1,000 issues, over 60 emotions, over 1,000 issues, which are also physical, which is amazing. So she's just looking at opening the doors. It's like a bit like Alice in the Rabbit Warren. But Rachel's got this problem with resistance. So if you can imagine, if you're going into a corridor, there's this big sign over it saying resistance. So what is that resistance? When did it start? What's it doing and why is it affecting her? So if it goes in the corridor, opening the doors one by one, trying to find out what these energies are. And then what she's doing now is using a magnet, using magnets. And what she's doing is using that magnet, which is huge energy, over your governing meridian line, which is your main energy line, which goes from just under the lip, right across, all the way down your back and underneath your tailbone. And that governing line, that main line, then goes out to all the branches throughout your body. So she's speaking to the meridian line. Magnets amplify it. You imagine the whole world is covered with magnetic force, isn't it? And it just taps into that. So what she's doing is finding these energies, which, as she said earlier, each has its own different frequency. Using the magnet, she's using the same sort of frequency to eliminate it. It's like for like and eliminating it. So hopefully then Rachel will feel much better. We don't know yet how many energies, how many emotions she's got.
I did is I asked what was the first priority with Rachel's relationship around food. You know, what happens is that thought process that Rachel has around food and the issues that she's got didn't just start overnight, unless obviously it was inherited or prenatal that she's had from her genealogy line. But it didn't. It started when she was 5 years old. So the cause, one of the first causes was what we call a curse. Now, bearing in mind, everything is just vibrations, everything's just energy. We are actually just made up of what the earth is made up of. I didn't know if you knew that. So a curse is given from somebody else. So I don't know if you've ever been in the car and someone's cut you up, or if you've been in a supermarket and you bang the trolley with somebody and they have a little bit of temper, you know, we can go, oh, you, whatever your words are. Now, those words can then vibrate to that person and affect their energy field from only two reasons. Number one, it depends on how much their intention was. If they really wanted to verbally cause you harm and they really meant what they were saying. And the second thing, that you had no shield up to protect yourself. Remember, we talked about shields and how to put a shield up to protect yourself when we did absorb trapped emotions. So what happened is when Rachel was 5 years old, so whenever I say year, it's always plus or minus. So 4, 5 or 6 years old, there was a curse that was given to her from a man. Now, what happened is from this curse that she had from a male person, it affected her vibration. It affected her misalignment within her body. That's one thing. The second thing is she has a heart wall, what they call preconception. Now, we are going to do preconception on its own, and there's probably only about 20 to 30 people of our clients that we've had have only ever had preconception emotions. Now, I've never explained to you the reason why I decided to become an emotional code and body code practitioner under Dr. Brad Nelson. Let me just explain to you the reasons why. You know, from being born, I've always felt like I was a beacon of negativity. No matter how much of a positive mind I had, I always felt I kept on getting negative emotions, negative situations. Things just didn't work out for me. And I always felt a little bit disconnected with the world and with everybody else, like a non-belonging. I didn't know why. And whenever I got upset or emotional, I always said, I want to go home. Even though I was at home, I just felt like I wanted to go home. So I'd never understood this. And a couple of years ago, a very good friend of my mum's gave her this book to read, and the mum passed it on to me. And I watched a couple of videos of Dr. Brad Nelson. And one of the videos he said is, have you ever felt the need to go home? So straight away, bing, 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 all my light bulbs came up. And I thought, oh, he's talking my language. Now, this is what preconception is coming home. Now, I always call it like the water slide. So what happens is this, again, it all depends on what your beliefs are. It depends on what your thought process are. So before we come onto planet Earth, there's a place, sometimes people call it home, where we come from. And I call it the water slide. So as you're coming through on this water slide, what should happen is your memory should be wiped off of wherever you come from before, so you can cope with being here. About 20 to 30% of people that come down this water slide, not all the memories are released or got rid of. Wiped. So we not only do we have emotions coming from this water slide before we come to planet Earth, then we have these absorbed emotions as a fetus, And that's before you're even born. So you can imagine how many emotions people can have. So with Rachael, she had emotions that went into a heart wall that was preconception, i.e. coming down the water slide. And there were 3 emotions that she had that went into a heart wall. So the first one was bitterness, then crying, then dread. So she must have been coming down the water slide and thought, oh, is that who my parents are going to be? Is that where I'm going to be living? So she had the fear of dread, crying and bitterness as she was coming down. So I'll give you a bit of a tip. If you ever feel that you don't belong, I mean, this is going to be quite far out there. If I say to you, you don't feel like you belong to the human race, or you feel that you're a little bit separate to everybody else, I don't mean an ego thing. I don't feel like you're better than everybody else. Not that at all. If anything, you probably feel a little bit lower than everybody else. Just that disconnection from most people. That could mean that you've got trapped emotions before you came down here or the water slide. So I've released those 3 trapped emotions for Rachael, the dread, the crying, the bitterness. And before I released those, I looked to see how big a heart wall was, which was 43 centimeters. The biggest heart wall we've had. Not naming any names, wasn't over 99 miles. So, you can imagine, how big people's heart walls can be. What happens is this: as we go through life, we get another emotion, And if those emotions get trapped in our heart wall, they can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like walking around with a carrier bag of emotions, and your life feels heavy. Your body feels heavy, and you feel like life is just dragging you down. So what we do is we take out those emotions from your carrier bags, but you're still left with the carrier bags to hold on to them. Because if you don't change your thought process or your belief system or your habits, guess what's going to happen to your carrier bags? They're going to fill up again. So that's why I say this is just the first start of the process of your energy healing. So Rachael's heart wall was 43 centimeters. After releasing those 3 emotions from coming down the water slide, it's now 13 centimeters.
Oh, brilliant.
I've not checked where issue is now for the subconscious mind. Let me just check that. So that's a 7 out of 10 now. So that was a 10 out of 10, and now that's a 7 out of 10. So we'll contact Rachael. We'll send over the notes to her so she can see what's exactly been released, and we'll contact her and have a chat with her as well to see how else we can help Rachael. Okay, so emotions. Where are they? Let me just check I've disconnected. Yeah. So what are emotions? As I mentioned, it's impossible not to have emotions. We all need emotions. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but, we have happy emotions as well as negative emotions. It's impossible not to pick these emotions up. It's part of who we are. And if we have experienced something and we don't process it and let it go, it can then become trapped. 90%, over 90%, this has been scientifically proven, over 90% of our mental and physical pain and suffering starts with the thoughts. So that's why I mentioned about the carrier bags. We release the trapped emotions out of your carrier bag, but your carrier bags represent your thought process. So if we don't change our habits and belief and thoughts, we're going to fill those carrier bags back up again. Because our emotions and thoughts are just the seeds to our well-being. Okay, so that's today's topic. That's what we've done. That's today's topic. Scientists, I mentioned this last week, scientists have now discovered the electromagnetic signals radiating from your heart can actually be detectable in somebody else's brain waves of who you're sending that love to. So why don't we spend 30 seconds just doing that? We're going to do this every week now.
Good idea.
So send your love. So who do you want to send you love? Who do you want to send your love out to? So think about one person. Just think about one person. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about your heart. Your heart chakra is the color green. So if you think about the color green and think about a tube of light, remember, energy has no limits on space and time. So just think about the love that you want to send out to whoever this person is, and think about that light of green go into that other person's heart. And just be quiet. If we be quiet for 30 seconds whilst we're sending out that love to whoever we want to send it out to. Are we ready? Okay. Okay. And then what you need to do then is give thanks and love and gratitude to whoever that person is that you're sending out the love. And then send some love back to yourself as well. Good. Now, some people say they feel things when that happens. If you felt anything while she was giving the love out, please comment below. I'd really love to hear what you thought. Now, as I mentioned, we are just made up of whatever the earth is made up of. We are just houseplants with complicated emotions. That's all we are. We're just houseplants with complicated emotions. The deeper the root is of the emotions, the harder it is to pull those trapped emotions out, i.e. more sessions people may need. But what we want to do is, everybody loves a quiz, don't they? Everybody loves a quiz. Do you like my props? Everybody loves a quiz. So what Madeleine and I have put together is we have put together a chakra quiz, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. But let me just do a summary of what we spoke about and what today's topic was. So as I mentioned, we are honoured to be here every Monday at 10:30. We're very honoured to be here for you. So the topic today was prenatal trapped emotions. How can you get them? You can absorb them from your mum. Can you stop that? No. It's just part of evolution, just part of what happens. But what you can do is become aware of it, and we can help you remove them. So if you feel like you've always suffered with a certain pain, physical or mental pain all your life, you've probably got a prenatal trapped emotion or inherited trapped emotions. Madeleine explained to you about the studies that she's researched into prenatal trapped emotions. And we had one volunteer, which was Rachael, and we reduced her pain scale down from a 10 out of 10 down to a 7. And remember, we talked about the preconception or the water slide. So, the feeling that she had was even before she came as a fetus. And then Madeleine explained how we release trapped emotions. How does the energy work? And I explained to you what are emotions, and we sent out some love. So thank you very much for everybody that's watched us. So thank you very much to Elma as well, Laura, Alison and Aubrey. As always, it's a pleasure to serve you all. And what to happen next? So next week, our topic will be about shared emotions. So don't forget your free chakra quiz. If you haven't already done it, what happens is this: you will fill out some questions. I think there's about 7 questions, and each question there's 7 statements. So you pick whichever one you think resonates with you at that time. And then once I've received your results, I will send you 4 quick and easy methods on how to reduce or remove the imbalance within that particular chakra. I will send out to you daily emails over a certain amount of time. I think it's about 7 days, just to keep a reminder on how to reduce or help realign that chakra. And that's what we do with the chakra quiz. If you'd like to have a one-to-one session, you'd have 40 minutes to 50 minutes with myself. And then at the end of that, you have a meditation with Madeleine. We call it the taster session. I'll put the link below. So thank you so much for today. It's been an honour to be with you. As always, we're going to send out you much love, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.